which I hate that camshaft.
You're not a big fan.
It's got 300 duration and no lift. All the pressure in the engine comes up on the secondaries in the carburetor.
Whoa. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of BarryTsGarage. I'm having a lot of fun with Ed this morning, Ed Smith, and decided let's turn on the camera and answer some questions.
Yeah, okay, good.
Our friends keep sending in questions.
Yeah, good.
And so we keep...
Let's see what we can do.
The 461X heads. Now apparently they were for the Corvette, the 327 Corvette, 461 head, but somehow the X casting has it more breathing or something? Have you come across those?
I don't remember ever having an X head.
Okay.
461s, we had a lot of them.
Okay.
And there we have quite a few, and we have them here. But the X, I don't know what that was. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, well apparently they had better flow, but do you take normal heads and do any porting or flowing on those things? Is there anything?
Well, I think actually if you had a 461 or any head, cast iron head, it flows so much from the factory.
Yeah.
It has a lot of problems.
Okay.
You know, a lot of factors around the valve seats, the chambers, is actually clean that up and make them, and out make the chamber out to the size of the bore out, curl out to the 4-inch bore.
Okay.
To take that chamber out there, just clean it up a little bit, and then around the intake gaskets, straighten those all up in there, made it maybe down a 1/2 inch down the port.
Okay.
And do some of those things to match them up with the intake instead of having square edges, offset edges, and things like this. So you just can't, a 461 head or 461X is not going to flow anything.
Okay.
You know, it's okay. It's the biggest thing that General Motors can make out of the foundry.
Yeah.
And just give it to you unfinished.
I see.
Even though they call it finished.
Right.
It's not unfinished until you do a little port matching and do a little things like this, and probably it needs a little work around the valve spring seat.
Okay.
It's probably not big enough for a little bit of a valve spring other than this original spring.
I see.
So we've always had to run those seats down and grind them a little bit.
Okay.
Make them for a bigger valve spring a little bit, so the thing starts flowing and get some RPMs out, because normally that 461 was good to about maybe 6,500 RPMs.
Okay.
That was good enough for a Corvette. Those motors didn't go over 6,500.
Right. Right.
If they were capable, if you start working on them, of course, the hot rodder guy got them, and some of those motors, you know, put a little, actually a lot of them, there was a lot of Hilborn fuel injected on gassers. You know, that's like a gas, B gas, C gas, stuff like this.
Yep.
They poured those heads out, and they got $7,000, 7,500 RPMs easily.
Okay.
Maybe even $8,000. So those little 327 motors in an Anglia or something, a light car and drag racing, yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Same way as sprint cars. That's what they had in sprint cars.
Yeah.
But they had it just because it had an X on it. It wasn't a huge head.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it being 1/4 inch bigger.
I wonder if it wasn't
something.
even any bigger. I'm going to just...
It may be the alloy that the head was made out of too.
Okay.
I don't know. I never heard of that, because if they changed the alloy, maybe a little more nickel in the head, so it didn't crack as easy.
Okay.
Things like this, that's probably, but I don't know. You
Yeah.
have to do some research on the X.
Yeah.
But I don't think it floated any more than the regular head, if that answers your question.
Yeah. That's
okay.
That's the legend. But thank you.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I got another one here from a friend named Dan. He lives in Phoenix just like we do.
Okay.
And he has a Phoenix question, and that is, but it could be for anybody.
Okay.
He says he worries, he does his own DIY engine rebuilding, and he worries about the change in temperature when you measure precision measurements. Like on maybe 5 months ago, it was 120 degrees out that day, and then maybe today it's 50 degrees. Do you worry about the temperature change?
I hope he's not working out in the sun when it's 120.
That's for sure. I'm sure he's not.
I hope he's in an air-conditioned shop, nice and cool, with a little fan blowing on him.
Yeah.
And the temperature is the same as it was yesterday.
Okay, good.
So if that answers your question. No, we have our air conditioner here. It's coolers. We have coolers on, and we don't want anybody to work out in the sun. And
no.
And as far as temperature-wise, it would, of course, it's going to change your raw materials.
Yeah.
If you have a head laying outside on a bench someplace or in a shelving, in a container, we have lots of containers. I think I have about 15 40-foot container someplace on the property here, someplace.
Yeah.
They're full of engine parts, and we have 2 that's just with shelving in them, and they're full of cylinder heads. But that's hot in there. We would never take a head out of there and then take it over to a cooler and do any kind of machine work on a cylinder head right out of that container, right out of that hot, as hot as it. No, we don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're in Phoenix, we know better. So it don't bother us.
Right.
And I hope it don't bother him.
Right.
He's working on the sun with 120.
Well, he's worried about the precision measurement. So
Well, the precision, we don't worry about that much. I know some things are.
yeah,
We have a lot of precision instruments here, like our balance machine and our boring bar and honing and something. Sure.
yeah,
But then you turn on, heat the engine up, and normally run the engine at 180 degrees, and once in a while it gets up to 200. Messed all that stuff up. We do some crazy things. We worry about different things on instruments and things as far as vibration and shaking the engine and doing things with the molecules of the material of the block and the cylinder heads.
okay,
So I'll just cover this a little bit. We probably wouldn't go extremes to spend time on a customer's motor unless it would be some precision motor that I would do or one of our own. We had a machine that's on a table that shook, vibrated.
okay,
We had a motor on it with an offset vibration. It would shake the whole table. So if you put a valve seats in a motor and you put a little exhaust valve seat, engine so big valve seat in, exhaust, and then you put a big one right beside it, a 202 intake valve seats. You pound them in the head. You've distorted that whole chamber. One small one and the other, because you pound them in there, press them in. That's
Right.
normal. And you pressed in a set of guides. You distorted that whole chamber. That's what's important. I hope. So then we would take that head when we got all done with it. If you would put that, just put it together, put it on a car, it'd get hot and cold, 180 degrees, maybe 200. After 2 or 3 weeks, after 2 or 3 days, neither one of those valve seats are going to be seated.
no kidding.
They're going to somehow stretch. Once you get hot and cold,
They're going to find their way out.
and they're going to be out of shape.
Yeah,
So with this, we would put it on the whole cylinder when we get done, put it on a table, and shake it for a whole day.
really.
That table would shake less than you could actually feel it shake. And we got done, you could put those valves in that thing, run it, get it hot and cold, the whole head would increase up to 180, 200, and that's normal. And probably after a long time, the valves would still be seated.
No kidding. So what is the valve vibration doing for it?
Just letting all the molecules,
Oh, I see.
Relax.
I see. Okay.
the molecules in the head itself.
It reduces stress.
So that's the same way. Now, do it just a little bit.
Okay.
Our race cars, our whole chassis,
Yeah.
and NASCAR does this, I know for a fact. They don't tell you. They have a big table they put their chassis on. When they get done welding on this corner and welding on that corner and welded on this corner and that corner, if they put that chassis together without shaking it and getting all those stresses off, if you took a hacksaw inside the pipe or two, it'd probably go dwing. Well, who knows which way it'd go.
Right.
If you stress test that thing and shake it for a couple, 3 days, the whole chassis. Again, it's shaking, you can't even feel it. Saw a pipe off and it'll stay right there.
Uh-huh.
So if he put that chassis together and put shocks on it, put a motor on it, and went in the first corner, he'd be probably backwards in the wall.
Oh, man. Yeah.
He has no idea where that chassis is going to go, so it's a must that they shake everything in the chassis. They can build that chassis and they know exactly what it's going to do in the corner.
Interesting.
So that's just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we would shake our cylinder heads on my motor that I want to race, but that's expensive to do that. So I don't know if we got off the track or not.
Well-
just we're back onto something that's interesting.
It is. Well, it just tells you there's always more levels of detail you can get to.
Yes,
with
never
precision.
ending.
It's precision, you're right.
Yeah, it's never ending.
Yeah.
Not necessarily using a dial indicator or precision, a micrometer. We're in about a couple thousandths here and there. Airplane parts. How many rivets they got in an airplane wing?
So many.
If they didn't shake that wing and de-stress it, when that airplane took off, one wing would go up about 4 feet and the other one would go down about 4 feet.
Right.
So they had no idea where that airplane would go if they didn't stress test every last piece of that airplane before they assembled it.
We have a friend that watches us named Mel, and he has his own ignition business.
Okay.
So he knows a lot about it, I guess.
Yeah.
And apparently he's been using his distributor machine for 30 years. And what he likes to do, and I want to know what you have to say, he says, on my 66 Sun distributor machine, the dual points are not straight across from each other, they're about 15 degrees at an angle. And when I block off one set of points, I'm looking at only one set. They're the only ones working, and they may have 28 degrees showing on the machine.
Dual, yes.
Yes, okay. And then when he blocks off the other set, they're also 28 degrees, but when he fires them both,
34.
that's what, did you see this ahead of time?
No, I know exactly what they are.
Okay, all right. All right, so what he says is that for a performance engine, they allow the coil a little bit longer between firing the sparks or something like that. Does that make sense? To get a
Sure.
complete burn?
Sure, this is good. I like, there's nothing. Okay, good.
Okay.
He knows what he's talking about.
All right.
And again, I've messed with that forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, so you're on the same page with him.
Sure, of course.
Okay, so he's suggesting that,
One point opens and the other one closes.
yeah, one point's open, and I guess first one opens, then the other one opens, then the first one closes, then the
That's
other
right,
one closes.
exactly right.
Is that
So that's where they stay cooler that way.
okay?
Yeah. So that one opens, the other one closes 8 times for a V8.
Okay.
Yes, that's why they're a little bit behind.
Okay.
Okay.
And he says,
what else is this?
well, he was just saying, he says it's probably not a big deal on a street engine, but on a performance engine, probably a bigger deal.
Okay, that's what it's supposed to be. That's what it's cooling.
Yeah.
And make that ignition run better. Okay, what we did then, exactly, we've talked about that before. We hooked up both, and you could take one point out and it'll run fine.
Yeah.
It
At
would
28
be like
degrees.
a single point distributor. So if you just pick one on one bag, take it out and leave the wire off.
Okay.
It'll run just fine on 8. The timing will be a little bit off.
Right.
It depends on which one you do, because one's a few degrees behind the other one.
Right.
So now, we've always did this, is to hook up both of them up to a different switch. Each point to its own switch.
Okay.
So now you flicked it over on the retard one and starts better.
Uh-huh.
Then as soon as you get done, you flick it from that one over to the other one, and now you got it on the advanced
Now you got
one.
the advanced. You got
Yes.
2 ignitions.
2 ignition systems, dual ignition systems, all that set of points, all that distributor, original Chevrolet distributor, yeah, or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So now, in drag racing, it runs better if the timing's retarded a little bit.
Okay.
So we would flick it over on the advanced one, take off from the starting line with low power. On top end, you had a high gear, flip it over to the retard side, and gain a couple miles an hour
No kidding.
because you retarded the timing and burnt the fuel a little better.
Huh.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
So that we played with that ignition a lot because you have 2 sets of points. But it sounds like he has always kept them together.
Well, at least he sounds like he does repairs on distributors, I think.
My distributor machine over here is a 1956.
Well, it's 10 years older.
It's got a scroll, and it has a scroll in there that tells you 56 Pontiac or 54, what to set the points at, and the dwell is supposed to be, and all that on this whole line of the scroll. It built in the machine, it's a roll.
So all the common cars, the specs are right there.
Yeah, your specs you can spec by rolling them up to Studebaker and all this stuff, you know what it is. And so the last one I think is 56.
Okay.
So it came out of a shop in 1956. That's when
Sure.
that machine was made, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, so-
All right. Well, Mel is in North Carolina. Thank you for that.
Yeah, good. A good question.
Yeah, that's very good.
fun.
Someone had an engine rebuilt, and the compression was a little different on one side. We've touched on this before. One side had a little more compression than the other side. When would that be a big problem? How much difference in compression on one side or the other would really matter?
Not much. I'm really concerned. In the last couple months, I've lost some sleep we've had a couple engines that we've had trouble with. We can't figure out what's wrong with them. And this is, I'll blame it on production. And probably a little bit of everything. We get these motors, one of them was returned back to us here in town. Thank God it was here in town. And it had a particular camshaft in it. A little bit of a high performance, not much, a little 280-degree cam, 450, 460 lift or something like this. And then brand name cam. We've used these cams for a long time. It happened to be in a 351 Ford Windsor, aluminum intake, carburetor and everything is all okay. I think the customer sent us a carburetor rebuilt from Edelbrock. It was not a good idea at all.
Yeah.
It didn't work right. He sent us a distributor to put in it. And we're just building this motor. We're going to get done with it, ship it out to him. I guess that's what we're going to do.
So when you say building, did you do machine work on the block?
We did the whole motor.
Okay.
Put the camshaft in it and whatever else. And one of our camshafts, that we use a lot of camshafts from this particular brand. We start this motor up, and it only goes a few RPMs, and pretty soon it gets so much pressure on the motor. Let's say I can rev it up to about 2,000 on the engine stand. After that, all the pressure in the engine comes up out of the secondaries in the carburetor.
Whoa.
Just like the exhaust is plugged, and we got open headers on our stand. So this is production again. We haven't settled this case yet.
You don't know the answer yet?
Well, we do.
Oh, okay.
After messing with it for a couple weeks, trying to figure this out, changed it and advanced the camshaft. And the camshaft, we got down, only had 100 pounds compression at idle. Or even cranking stop. Cranking was 100 pounds compression. We don't like that.
Right.
So we advanced the camshaft, took it apart, and advanced the camshaft a few degrees. Now we got about 115, but still runs out of the back of the carburetor. It won't go any over one bit over 2,000 RPMs on the engine stand. It just runs right out of the back of the carburetor full.
Wow.
So I think the camshaft is ground crooked.
Oh, it's like it's twisted or something?
No, on the machine it came loose.
Oh.
This is my theory.
Yeah.
Came loose in all the lobes. Now we checked the cam. We don't have a cam checker.
Yeah.
That'd be a whole machine you put in there, put a lifter in it, or put several lifters in it, and check them all to see if they're all in line.
Yeah.
The only way you can check that is, again, have an open block or a bare block or something and start putting several indicators on it. And we don't have that.
Right.
Camshaft people do.
Yeah.
But I think it came loose, or something came loose and ground the cam backwards
Okay.
or forward.
So when they were actually grinding the cam to begin
yes,
with.
the cam grinder.
Yeah.
We called him, and he never heard of that before, and I've never heard of it. Well, we do have that problem when the catalytic converter is plugged up completely.
Sure. Yeah.
The air's got to go somewhere. So the motor just stops. It turns into an air compressor.
Right. Right.
Exactly like an air compressor. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's happening to it.
Okay.
We changed the camshaft brand and it runs fine.
Okay. You put a different cam in?
Yes.
And it runs great.
Runs fine. A different brand.
Wow.
And now the motor runs fine.
And you lost sleep over that.
Then we had one the other day. Thing that I lost some sleep on this, and we just figured out that the customer, we'd done a short block, and he went home and put it together.
Okay.
Put his parts in it, and whatever he'd bought parts from wherever else. And then he called us up and said he can't get it to run. He can run it some if he gets it to rev up somehow. Really strange. So he brought it back over to us, and so he says, get this thing to run. So we check it, and it's got compression is really crazy. And it will run for about 2 seconds when the oil pressure comes up. Come to find out, he's got a Chevy camshaft in it, the old type. I'll just say that I know the grind. 30-30 Duntov camshaft grind.
Yep.
Which I hate that camshaft.
You're not a big fan.
It's got 300 duration and no lift.
Yeah.
I hate that. Then he's got hydraulic lifters on it.
Oh.
And it runs for about 2 seconds until all the lifters pump up. And he has no compression at all. None.
So what's happening when those lifters are over pumped?
Well, I just let it set, and they all bleed down.
Yeah.
Then we'll run again for 2 seconds.
Huh.
So then we took quite a time and got everybody together and decided that's what's wrong with it.
Okay.
We tried to adjust them different ways and stuff. And he's had this motor at home for 2 or 3 weeks trying to get it to run.
Okay.
So I says, well, we'll take it apart, put solid lifters in it, and it would run fine, perfect.
Ah.
But they took the hydraulic lifters out of them, half of them are flat.
Oh, it's the lifters
Wore
themselves.
the lifters out. Now the cam and the lifters are both junk. But he puts hydraulic lifters on a solid lifter cam.
He put hydraulic lifters in a solid lifter cam.
Yes.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Now if you put solid lifters on a hydraulic cam, you have to adjust the valves 3 thousandths, 3 to 5 thousandths. They run fine.
Okay. But you can't go the other way
The
around.
other way around, it won't run. And that's exactly what he did. So he looked at his parts order that he bought his parts from. I think the people that he bought the camshaft from, the brand, I don't know if he bought the brand of lifters from one person, the cam from the other one, or whatever they did. But when he bought all his parts to put this motor together,
Yeah.
it was all mismatched. So somewhere, again, we blame maybe production. Maybe production put the wrong hydraulic lifters in a solid lifter box
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But today's world
Yeah.
is troubling.
Yeah. People aren't as careful anymore, are they?
Well, and he said the beginner, older guy, but he don't know anything about building a motor,
Yeah.
where he would check.
Yeah.
So it's really sad.
That is sad. Why? What a lot of grief.
Yeah.
My
And
goodness.
he's not happy.
Yeah. Wow.
So we're right in the middle of this a little bit, but we'll probably put a cam and lifters in it and break it in like it's supposed to be. But he couldn't get it to run, so therefore he couldn't rev it up. He couldn't get it to do what
Can't
it's
do
supposed to
anything.
be in the brake. There was no way he could come up with a break-in
Yeah. Right.
system or anything,
Yeah.
but it just ruined everything.
Man, that's sad.
So it's a bad. I don't know if that was in the question or not that we're trying to answer.
Well,
It's just
I think the question reminded you of that, but the actual question was, in a normal engine, let's say it has 120 pounds on one
On
bank
one side and
and
the other-
125 on the other.
yeah, I wouldn't be concerned with that unless I ran it for a while and get the rings all broken and everything else and get
Okay.
them settled in.
What would cause that normally, you think?
I don't know. It's probably, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, probably could be a
I
lot
don't
of
think
things.
it could be that much in the honing of the motor, how he honed the cylinders or how the rings are or whatever.
But if it's one bank or the other, it makes me think
Yes.
that maybe it was a different deck height on one side or the other a little bit.
It actually could be, yeah. It could be deck height. One head milled more than the other one a little bit.
Where the head's different, yeah.
But that,
It's not that much though, right?
it's not that much. And actually, if you mill the head, you might change it maybe 2 or 3 pounds, not 5 or 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think ring gap, I don't think would be anything has to do with it, affect all on one side. And he said, I don't think I'd worry about it.
Okay.
I think I'd just run it and then maybe check in a couple of weeks to see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, good question.
All right, there we go. We got
Yeah,
there.
good question. A long answer, but good
That's
question.
fun.
Okay,
That's
good.
People keep kind of getting thrown off a little bit by that Offie dual plane manifold. Were they ever made for high RPM performance or for performance anything, or
I
what
don't
was?
think they were made for anything but gas mileage and torque.
Okay,
Probably torque and an RV. I think that's where they all came from.
I see.
Pulling a big load up a hill or something.
All right.
And they did it because with torque and whatever we expected out of a small block Chevy or small block Ford or anything like that, it didn't go anywhere anyways.
Yeah.
But whatever you could put an intake manifold like that, dual port manifold and a carburetor on it and get some kind of results. It was just something different, but it didn't solve the problem.
Okay. It
So
didn't
they
matter
quit
what
making it.
carburetor you put on it, really?
What?
Did it matter very much what carburetor you put
No,
on
not
it?
really.
Okay.
It's just still, you got a small block Chevy and you're trying to make it do something it ain't gonna do.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care what you do to it. But at all, it's like there, you need to do the intake, the carburetor, the distributor, the exhaust, and whatever else. You get the whole package and you'll probably gain something.
Okay.
Yeah, but not just the intake.
So it goes back to do the homework.
Yes, do your homework. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good deal.
Good question.
All right, let's revisit the the MEL or Mercury Edsel Lincoln. Our friend here says they were really underrated engines in his opinion. He says for him, all they need is a good modern cam grind and you can really do something with them. Do you have any opinion about that?
They were all good motors. Yeah, yeah.
Were they?
Of course, yeah.
They were good. Were they more torque or high? Would they rev up a lot?
They wouldn't rev up too much. They were too heavy. The pistons were all heavy. Too heavy to get anything out of it.
Okay.
It was a good torque motor.
I see.
Again, truck
Yep.
or pulling something. Yeah, yeah. It was good.
So
There's nothing wrong with those motors.
Yeah.
They breathed good. They had big intakes and exhaust ports. So yeah.
yeah, you know we love having those cackle fests and the nitromethane going down there, and people are confused about putting alcohol in the intake when they're shutting them down. Can you talk us through what's the alcohol doing? Because you can't really clean everything because the nitro's still in the plumbing, right, of the engine?
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Well, you just get that nitromethane out of there because it will actually do weird things. It is uncommon for it to eat up the fittings, aluminum fittings and stuff, attack that. If you left it in there very long, and the hoses and everything else, and any kind of O-rings and stuff in your pumps or anything that you got, any kind of material, it would distort it and corrode it.
Okay.
We'll call it corrosion.
Okay.
So you need to get that out of there, and the alcohol is cold,
Okay.
a lot colder. So you run alcohol through it, and it'll cool the engine right down.
I see. Okay.
And I think alcohol, it probably has maybe something in there to lubricate a little bit more, but mainly to clean that stuff out of there.
Okay, so the whole
When
intake
you get
system,
done,
I guess.
you need to clean the gas tank too.
Okay.
Get that stuff out of the gas tank. You can't let it sit for a month or so in there.
So it's very corrosive.
Yeah, it'll corrode everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's the worst of it. And then even shutting it down, you want to get that stuff out of there
Okay,
so it don't puddle anywhere. That's why you get done with running it, you back it off, back the engine backwards, so it pushes everything out the exhaust. Any kind of puddling in the cylinder wall or anything, and that's why they explode sometimes.
wow.
And they got some leaks down. If it's in a hose someplace, it keeps dribbling down after you left it set for, let's say, a half an hour or 45 minutes or something. And it
Yeah.
puddles in that cylinder, and you start that up and it'll blow the whole side of the motor out.
Yeah, wow.
So that's what it's really has to. Anyhow, that's why the people that do that don't have problems.
Right.
The people that know what they're doing and they're so careful with it.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have problems with it if you do it right.
Yeah.
Do your homework again.
So on the Cackle, what is the ingredient? What's making the Cackle sound exactly?
Nitromethane.
It's okay.
It's a dynamite.
Okay. So it's not
explosion.
Is it compression or octane? It's neither
Not
one.
compression at all.
Okay.
Because the blower's on there just to put some compression in it because it usually has maybe 7 or 7 to 1 compression.
Yeah.
Until you put the blower in and run a little bit of overdrive, and then you can get it up to whatever compression you want, but not much. There's
Okay.
not much compression in those motors. They're not going anywhere. They just sit there running. Then you
Okay.
start putting the fuel in and it starts like dynamite.
Okay.
That's what makes the bang,
Okay.
explosion.
All right. So,
And you hurt, just hoping you get all done, you don't hurt nothing.
right. So you really have to be careful
Again,
with
the
that
guys
stuff.
that know what they're doing, they know it. Run it rich enough, and then run with the alcohol, clean it up when you get done.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a fun little time of question answer. You had some really.
Hope they answer some of those questions in there that some are kind of weird, and I sometimes I forget exactly what all we do and why we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And we do so many things, and sometimes we do it automatically because, again, we don't stop and think of what we're doing. We just do it because that's the way we do it.
And probably maybe 30, 40 years ago, you figured out a certain way to do something, and it still works.
Yeah,
right?
it just still works, and that's the way we do it.
You don't think about it.
Somebody else can do it the way they want to do it.
That's right.
And we're not saying anything. That's not bad.
No, that's right.
It just depends on who's going to win the race.
That's right.
Yeah, and how long the motor's going to last.
That's right. Good. Well, so many people appreciate all your answers, Ed. So
I think
thank you
so too. Yeah,
for another one.
It's been fun.
They're very good.
Really good fun.
Well, I hope
So,
you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, good.
Okay,
Thanks.
we'll see you guys. Thank you for your questions. Any of you that stayed for the very end, you get the prize. Very good. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next Ask Ed.
Okay, good.